Hi, this is Dan with an update on my Master's Final project. I've made some serious progress on the inventory and ability swapping system, so I'll just go into it via video rather than via text because it's a little bit complicated. So now in our in-game UI we've got this inventory kind of sub-canvas here, and within that are 20 identical inventory slots. They've got a box collider and a UI icon script, which is kind of the same as these our ability icons down here have. So that registers when you hover over them and when you click on them. So what we do now is in the UI icon script we've added some stuff. So now when you hover over them, instead of just sending the ability number to the UI manager so it can fill the tooltip, it also sends its equipped status, so whether the ability is equipped to your ability bar or whether it's in your inventory, which allows it to find the ability data, whether it's in your character's abilities or in their inventory. So when it does that, and the show tooltip function, it sends it to the manager here, which calls this function, and then if it's equipped, it does what it used to do, which is just go into the player's abilities, find the ability corresponding to the number, and then fill the tooltip with the data from that ability. Whereas if it's not equipped, it does the same thing but goes into their inventory. So where is fill tooltip? Where's that gone? Fill tooltip. We've got a separate function for each one. Currently, I might. No, it makes sense having it this way because once again, it has to decide where it's going to go, whether it's going to go into the inventory to find the data, or whether it's going to go into the player's abilities. And so it uses this information from either the inventory slot or from the ability slot to fill out the tooltip with all the data about that ability. So that's how that works. And then when you move your mouse off of it, it hides the tooltip again. So now I've got the tooltip sorted onto the actual inventory itself. We've got a little input here, so pressing I brings it, opens it and closes it, and sets whether we know it's active or not. So it's a flip-flop function. And it also sets whether it's open or not in the player, because what I've had to do is disable movement input while it's open, because otherwise what would happen was if you clicked on the inventory, the raycast would also go through the inventory and hit the ground, causing the player to move, which we don't want to happen. So now in the player, we've got a check here where if the inventory is open, you can't move. So those two things are mutually exclusive, but that's okay. What next? Alright, the filling of the inventory. So whenever this is called, which is basically whenever you pick something up or open the inventory, what it will do is go through each of the inventory slots and detect whether there's something there by seeing if it's got a type, because no matter what the ability is, if it exists, if there is an ability there, it will have a type. So if it has a type, then it's coloured in white, which means there is something in that slot, whereas otherwise it'd be coloured in grey by default. So that tells you what's... and obviously hovering over the icon will fill the tooltip if there's something there, but this lets you know whether a slot has something in it or not via the colour, which is quite nice. What I'll do later on is probably put an icon in there instead of just a colour change, but for now the colour change, it serves the purpose. Well, now that obviously the major change is the swapping of the abilities, and that's done in this select ability function. So in the UI icon script, when we click on an icon, it does select ability and it sends that to the UI manager. Because what we've done is the inventory slots now in the player, they have base ability scripts. I think before they had a different script which was like a kind of a placeholder thing with just the data without the functions, but that caused issues. So instead they've got a base ability script, same as the abilities. So when you click on a icon, what it does is, in the UI manager here, it will send from the UI icon script, it does select ability, sends to the manager the ability number and whether it's equipped or not, the same as the on pointer enter kind of show tooltip function. Take that here, and then in the same way as the show tooltip function, it will differentiate whether it is an equipped ability or not. Either way, it does that here. But first what it does is detects whether you already have an ability selected. So if you don't have an ability selected yet and you select one by clicking on it, it will do this here, sets ability selected to now be true, and then it differentiates between whether it's in your inventory or on your hotbar. But either way, what it will then do is set selected ability to be the ability you've just clicked on, and copy all its data into a temp ability script. That is in the UI. There's a temp ability object here, which has just got a base ability script on it. So when you click on an icon, it will copy the data from there into the temp ability. So that then, when you've got ability selected is now true. The next time you click on an icon, what it does is set the ability that icon corresponds to targeted ability, and it copies the data from the targeted ability, the second one you've clicked on, into the selected ability, which was the first one you've clicked on, and overrides its data. It then takes the data from your temp ability, which is the same as what was in your selected ability, and copies that into the targeted ability, the second one you've clicked on. So basically the data from the first ability you click and the second ability you click swap over by saving data in the temp ability. And then resets the temp ability and does the fill inventory UI thing to make sure that the square's the right color. And that's kind of how it works. It's a little complex. It took me a while to work out, but it does now work. There are some things, some bugs and stuff with moving abilities around, where sometimes the right squares won't light up because you've moved something into a square that it previously thought was empty and now it's not empty, and then you pick something up and it tries to fill it, and vice versa. There's all sorts of things to iron out, but ultimately the functionality is there. So I can open my inventory. As you can see, it's empty. If I hover over any of these, they kind of change colour slightly to show that I'm hovering over them, but there's nothing in there. But I hover over these and they've all got something in them. What I can do is, let's say I want to unequip ability 1 here. I can click on it. Now it is selected and its data is saved in the temp ability, and I click on here and it copies it over. So if I take my mouse off and put it back on, you can now see that the data that was in ability 1 is now in this first inventory slot, and ability 1 is now empty. But I can pick it up again and put it back in there, and now this has got ability in it and this does not. So I can just swap them out. I can unequip all my abilities if I want, put them all in my inventory, and now I've got no abilities equipped. I'm pressing all my buttons, they're not doing anything, but I can put them all back in a different order. I can swap them around. If I want, one ability on a different button, that's fine too. So let's go find us an enemy. We'll fight them. There we go. Nice little satisfying explosion when they've been defeated. I've got some loot on the ground. You'll notice I've shrunk the UI for the overhead UI of some of the objects. It's getting in the way a little bit. Got a nice little noise indicating we've picked something up. I'll pick all these up. Now I open my inventory again, and there you go. We've got inventory with 4 abilities in there. They've each got their own data, which is procedurally generated, and I can take these abilities out of my bars. I'm going to do some cosmetic stuff to indicate that these are empty as well. And look, now I've got an inventory full of different abilities to choose from. So I can go, oh, I want that projectile there, I want this projectile, so I want to maximize as many projectiles as I can, so let's keep putting projectiles in. There you go, I just want a projectile focus build, I don't want any AoEs, so I've just got all these projectile abilities, which I think are cool. And then I can reorder my UI as well, because I want to keep it neat and tidy in my inventory. And there you go, that's the system. I think it works pretty well. As I said, there's still some kinks to iron out, but in short, that's how it works. Thanks for watching.